All right. Okay. We are live, I think. Hey, Nardi, good to see you in the chat. 1 second, let me get the... One second. Okay, there we go. We are in a good spot now, I think. Let me make sure. There we go. Yeah, that's good. All right, perfect. Perfect. There we go. God, Lyria weather. It is so bipolar. Like, make a decision, you. Alright, so let's see. Let's see now. Okay, we do got some small ones on this island. I couldn't remember if we identified them last time we were looking around here. Not too many, though. Now, let's see. All right. Okay, then. So we got big trees here in this forest. Quote-unquote crystalline forest. How's it looking over here? I don't remember if there were lots of them over here, if that's further south. No, okay, yeah. All right, now these only exist in circumstances where there are water, so... I forget, is this tree also unique to the lake, or... Oh god, no. There we go, okay. Perfect. Oh god, no, I accidentally... There we go. No, there we go. Okay, perfect. I mentioned in DM that I think the crystal buds are really young saplings. Saplings for the conifers, you're saying? Or just in general? Because if it's just in general, then for sure. If it's conifer specifically, I have to think about that one. But I think it's viable, because I'm pretty sure all the locations we find them in, there's at least a case to be made for... Like, I think the only one where it might be debatable is Kalit. Though, as I've said before, I think the rot trees are supposed to be the conifers for those areas. All right, so looking around here, we have definitely already the fair range of them. Yeah, this tree is where I'm like, I don't remember seeing you other places. And I may just be misremembering, but I feel like this tree is in fact pretty rare. Check Storm Hill if you're unsure about the swamp trees. The thing with Storm Hill, the Storm Hill does have the small conifers around the arena and around Stormvale Castle. But otherwise, it's pretty normal. I don't see these trees, that's for sure. Well, let's check around the arena now. Yeah, no, we have these here. These here, they're there. Otherwise, though, it's the normal trees we usually see. Oh, is there someone here? I don't remember. Oh, right, the recusant. Okay. Henricus. This guy's actually working for Gideon, yeah. You got another one over here. Now, this is what makes me interesting, is why they specifically want to use the smaller ones. And only around, like, this area in Stormvale and here at the arena. The only thing I can think of is the idea is that we have sorcerers who are coming to visit and stay at the castle on their way. And they may also have come to watch the arena and stuff. Which, again, I can see specifically, considering there should still be contact between them and the demi-human forest room and stuff. So I could definitely see that argument, where they would be, like, maybe coming to stop and stay. And that could maybe argue that the trees are recent, but then that makes me question, where does that... Like, are we supposed to believe that is the most recent that there's ever been any major sorcerer migration, and specifically just adding Stormveil to their route. That there's never been another time where sorcerers were essentially having lots of traffic through anywhere by the time or after Godfrey's last conquests. I wish I could remember the name of the bushy looking trees in Liurnia. It's not a cypress or a willow. You mean these things? I like to call them mangroves, though they're obviously not mangroves. They kind of remind me of I don't know if it's oaks, right? These here. But they're clearly being treated like mangroves, the way they only grow in water. But they look like oak trees to me. Like, these are like the type of trees you typically see elves under, right? Like, this is the stereotypical, like, oh, this is the tree with the elf or whatever. So an oak or I don't think it's a maple tree. God, it's been so long since I remembered the names of trees. I am definitely not a tree expert, clearly. Clearly, I need to update my software. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these... I don't know if the idea is that these are just young versions of these trees. That might be the idea. I don't know if they're really that similar, though. That's oak. Look at the moss. Unfortunately, we have fog, so it's harder for me to see the moss. Let's see if we can fix that. Looks like Spanish moss. I definitely recognize Spanish moss, so let's take a check. Let's check that. Now, it can't be maple trees, because maple trees have very specific leaves, so oak would definitely make the most sense out of them. God, why is Liurnian weather so fucking shit? Oh, just to double check, I did make this public, right? I keep forgetting. Let me double check that real quick. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah, it's public. Good, good, good. Okay, perfect. Perfect, darling. Perfect. All right, we have actually decent weather here, so let's get an angle on that lighting so we can maybe look underneath here. Oh God, whoops. I did not mean to open that. Here we go. Oh. I'm not sure I'm seeing moss on this tree in particular. Maple doesn't do well in wet, doesn't grow well in wet conditions. I don't think oaks do either. I mean, do you ever see oaks in swampy lakes like this? Because I'll be honest, I was not willing to like try to make real life comparisons with why these trees are growing in water. Hello, Crown of Solomon. I'm pretty sure it's public if I'm here. Yeah, I just had to double check because I'm like, oh wait, I don't remember setting it. You know, the problem with me streaming for so long is I start doing this stuff unconsciously, and like I'm always like, you know, thinking about other things in the meantime. So I'm just like, wait, did I do this properly? Did I actually do it right? I don't remember. Yeah, that might be moss there. Yes. Okay. Cool. Then I learned about something more about oaks. I wonder if there's a specific reason they chose oaks. I can imagine like maybe because there's like a druid association maybe with them. I'd have to look into my trees. Need to update my tree lore. But yeah, this is 100%. This is probably going to be mentioned in astrologers or yeah. Either that or the flood is hella recent. No, because it's very clear the oaks only grow in water. We will never find them outside of the water, even in the DLC. They're specifically grown in the pool. So it's very clear that the idea is supposed to be that these are water trees. So they're proliferating because the water of the lake has spread recently, well, more recently. In the past few years, let's say. That these trees have been growing in the past decade, maybe a little less. There we go. So that leaves, okay, so that leaves them covered over there. And yeah, this basically covers the entirety of where they have the forest little stuff on the map here then. Well, there you go then, yeah. It's very clear the idea is supposed to be that these have been overgrowing and taking over the land because of the lake, right? So they probably, now granted, considering the fact that Ymir was able to take them, they're obviously not like, oh, these suddenly evolved out of nowhere after the shattering. It's very clear they already existed, so I think it is fair to say that there probably were. It probably was something like this. You had the river here, and the river would create like small ponds and mini lakes, right? That were managed by obviously the different settlements and stuff to make sure they wouldn't cause any overflows or inundations into their obviously settlements and cause, well, the sinkings we see. But it's obvious because of the different infighting and stuff like that, all of that's gone by the wayside. So can we find them in any other bodies of water? No, they are 100% limited to Liurnia. As far as I'm aware, you can only find them here in Liurnia Lake or at the Church of Metter in the DLC. That's why I'm curious if we can find this smaller tree anywhere. Because I don't know enough about oaks to know if this is what a baby oak would look like. But if this is just supposed to represent a baby oak, or at the very least another species that, like the oak, only grows in the water because we can't find it anywhere else but in these waters, then that would be good to know. It says that oak thrives in wetlands and swamps. Good to know. Thanks so much, Crown. Okay, so if oaks are basically trees that can not necessarily typically be found, but tend to thrive in these wet environments, then we can definitely see the Miyazaki and the devs at From Software were drawing upon at least that basic idea and just have decided whether it's canonical or just, convenience of the narrative that we're only ever finding these trees growing in the water and nowhere else. So I think it's still fair to say that until proven otherwise, they're probably water exclusive, which makes sense because most trees we see in these games do not do well in water long term. Granted, it does give, I think what you said earlier, Nardi, does make sense in some context where it's like, okay, this flooding has to be recent, because we definitely see cases where all these trees and stuff are dying or in certain bodies of water and they're leaving driftwood. But then in other contexts, like here, we see some of it's on land still, but as we can see, some of this is still in water and it hasn't all died, right? So this seems to be really recent, which makes sense because this is clearly a normal road and stuff. So at most, this was probably a small brook or a tiny stream that you could easily walk over. It's only recently started to become a little bit more problematic here, right? Same thing over here. I said before, obviously Agiel Lake didn't exist for a while, obviously because Agiel wasn't around harassing in the area, and because the lake itself just wasn't a thing. It's become another recent phenomenon, and we can see how relatively recent, while most of it is still on land, we still get a sense that there are 100% a little bit of trees and stuff that are in the water here, and they're still flooded. Same thing with, what's it called? Okay, we're starting to see driftwood, though, so it's starting already to have some of the trees dying and stuff and starting to flow downriver. Right? But for the most part, this is supposed to be relatively recent water flooding. Hey, Xavier, good to see you. I mean, the specific oaks listed live in water. Yeah, but if we have generally a bunch of oaks that do, then we can say that that is a concept of being like, okay, there are some oaks at least that do thrive in water and survive very well in that type of thing, or only are exclusive to there, and therefore the developers were probably referencing those types. Now, is that the exact species we have here? I don't know. That I would have to look in, do some more comparisons or whatever. But I think it's very clear that at least it is not unprecedented that certain oak species have been at least water preferential. I've been sick recently, so it's good to join. Ah, it sucks to hear. Sucks to hear. L to dry soil trees. Yeah, like in general, we see that the trees just do not do well in water. They like staying on land. Yeah, so most of these we can see the trees are staying on the land here. Nothing there. And then here in Aggill Lake, we see a lot of the driftwood and stuff, so that's pretty consistent. Again, we can see all the dead trees, and that's putting aside the trees that get killed / burnt by Aggill, right? Causing our dragon burnt ruins we love so much. Few over here too, but we don't see it from this angle. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Aggill just killing all the trees. In fact, we actually see some of these trees, as we can see here. Still dead over here. Yeah, so giving us the core idea. This is actually one of the rare cases also where the bushes are still burnt. I don't recall if there's another area that uses these still burnt bushes. Most of the time, the bushes at least seem to regrow. Like, over here by the temple corridor. See? We'd see at least some of the plants here are not dead or have regrown. Bushes here. As we can see, the rest of the trees are dead, right? And again, in general, we'll find driftwood and stuff as we go around through here in this lake area. It's giving us the sense of all the trees that have died. Let's get a shot of this one too, because this seems to be another. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these are exclusive to Liurnia Lake, because I do not recall seeing this specific species of tree. Let's see if I can get a better. Nothing really crazy on the lighting, unfortunately. There we go. Do you know the type of trees that are dead in this area? Again, it's usually the same ones we see, right? We can see very consistently these trees alive and well are conifers. Look, another little mini conifer. Yeah, we see some trees that are dead, but again, that's normal. You know, not every tree survives in a forest, right? We're always going to see the odd tree that like gets sick or something and dies because of whatever reason. So again, that's just normal. That makes this forest or wood, grove, whatever you want to call it, more realistic, right? It's then when you're like, you get to the water and then burnt and dead. Right? And then you got the other trees that are growing in the water instead. So very consistent. All right, I think I've had enough of the relaxing. I want my crazy. I want my crazy and my BGM. So, excuse me. Excuse me as I put on my crazy. There we go. There we go. Ah. Right. And then again, once we're back on land, again, we see instantly shifts back. So again, it gives a very clear signal of the type of the way that Liurnia looked before the water really flooded everything. So this is the furthest west we can find room bears as well. So it becomes very obvious. If you are on the west side, i.e. Karian territory, as a dragon, you had a pretty safe chance that you weren't going to get mauled by a bear and have your body devoured. But if you were anywhere on the east side, good luck. You were hanging out in dangerous territory. Right? So we find like there's like the one up there sleeping. I think there's like a one over here, like in the pathway to here. There's obviously the two here. There's the one down there. I think there might be another two somewhere, but I can't remember exactly. But yes, they make it very clear that yeah, room bears correlate to dragon populations, which makes so much sense why Mistwood has so many down here, because this is in the frontier, right? This is the farthest from any of the other major political events that were happening. So there was plenty of opportunity for not only for the dragons to basically stay, kind of safe and, be fruitful and multiply down there, but plenty of opportunity then for room bears to really build an ecosystem. This makes it interesting to me then when we consider the DLC and the room bears. So if I recall correctly, we don't find that many Actually, yeah, we do find the room bears, at least in a small number, in the Rao base area. So there is quite a few there. I wonder how much of that is dragons were trying to escape Altus Plateau because they were being hunted by the farm colonists, and they end up getting hunted by the bears instead down there. And how much of it might be related to like the drift of like dragon dead bodies and things over to the center of the lands between. Are you thinking that both the water oaks and the conifers are a byproduct of the astrologers? No, I think they're probably natural. Okay, so let's bring up the image. I think it's been a while since I've showed this, so this is probably a good time to remind the class. All right, where is it? Conifers. This is the oh, you know what? I remember where it is. It's under maps, isn't it? Elden Ring maps, edits. There we go. Maps. Okay, here we go. Yeah, let's do this. The conifers. So here is the general list of the conifer locations. So keep in mind, this is before factoring in the small conifers. I don't know if I'll make that a separate map or I'll include it as part of it because they're clearly intended to be the same thing. Let me show this. There we go. It's been a while since we discussed tree lore exactly, which is why this is the perfect opportunity for us to include it. Ba, ba, ba. Oh god, I love this song so much. Anyway, so again, these are the conifers. These are spirit conifers specifically. I don't think we get any physical conifers on the mountaintops to my memory. Here on the mountaintops, right? So this, again, outside of the area of the flame peak, which, oh wow, what a shocker, where the fire giants with all their flame were. The trees weren't growing. God, I am so gobsmacked by this revelation. It is so crazy to think that the trees don't grow in the fireplace. But basically we have a very clear signal that there were trees that were growing on the mountaintops. We have a little bit of spread here, down here. This could be natural, though again, this could also be due to astrologer migration populations. And then we have, of course, the concentration here, definitely due to astrologer migration populations. This makes a lot of sense. You get some Nox coming up here from probably Nameless Eternal City. Oh, there we go. We got some Nox coming down here from the Nameless Eternal City. We got some of the astrologers down here. They team up. The Nox are handing over some of their old model Albinorics because they've now moved on to adopting mimic tiers and stuff. They're bringing themselves and their draconic soldiers over here and stuff, and they established their little colony similar to what we see with Celia. Again, these are the rotted conifers that we see in Caelid. So again, same idea. These have a very interesting concentration that show that it's not just a matter of, oh, it's Melania's rot flower and they're just kind of growing all over randomly. It's like, no, there's a very clear, there's a very unnatural spread of them. It doesn't emanate the way you'd expect randomly in certain places. It instead follows a very similar pattern to what we see with other trees, and it's very much consistent with this idea that, oh, Celia had a giant culture that spread all the way through here leading up to Summon Water Village. So again, all this is consistent with that. Same thing we see down here. I should add a few because there are the small trees over here as well. I don't actually. Let's double check here in Weeping Peninsula. I don't remember if that specific forest spot has the conifers, but anyway. Hello. Hello. Can I? Hello. Oh, let me guess. Yeah. No, that's not it. Huh? So did my game just freeze? Deepest lore. Well, tree lore is I think unironically some of the deepest lore, because obviously trees are important in this game. The devs obviously had trees on their mind when developing it, right? There's just no denying it. Like literally when your central, like, you know, map piece is the Erd tree, like it's going to be something that's going to be in the talks about trees and the growth and all that stuff, and creating an interesting open world and all that stuff, and what assets are going to get reused and how you're going to reuse them. Okay, that was very weird. I don't know what that was all about. Okay, let's see this area, because I don't remember exactly how far the conifer thing goes. But anyway, let's go. Is that near where the ruins where Selen was imprisoned? Yeah, but Selen's thing is a little different. So okay, yeah, so yeah, nothing here. Nothing here. Nothing here. Yeah, it's over here though. We get some of the smaller trees. I think this is the only place this is the only place on Weeping Peninsula where these smaller trees are used. They're not using the bigger forest stuff there or anything. It's just in this little corner. The rest are the adult trees, see? So, interesting choice by whatever dev was in charge of decorating this area. But it gets across the general idea that the sorcerers clearly were out here doing like surveys and investigations and things historically around this spot. Makes sense that some of the trees would spread here. Obviously, we see them here at the Ailing village and around here with the Demon Forest ruins, probably because they had close relations with the Ailing village. There was probably some cross-pollination of their communities, I can imagine. Anyway, so back to the map. So we have a little bit here, but basically, as we can see, just a little few dots and stuff. This makes sense because the idea here is you have a bunch of the faith-loving sorcerers that would escape down here and try to basically be like, okay, you think we're all heretical because we include faith in our calculations? Fine, whatever. We're gonna get the bumfuck out of the way because we know that you two like to, you know, cross over and travel this way. Yes, there we go. And then, like I said, we have all the trees and stuff over here, obviously around the Karian study hall and the village where they seem to have done all their like alchemy plant growth things. Up here where the settlements and stuff for the moon nobles and their moonfolk servants are, the cathedral, also the area that's like enshrining the three sisters. Up here again, leading up to the temple quarter. I can very easily see the temple quarter having also once included this, but because these trees were burnt and the others weren't, we won't see any surviving evidence there. Obviously around here with Rhea Lucaria and stuff like that. I don't think we see any actually on the bridge from what I recall. We do though get some, of course, around here. Again, another major congregation point with the teleporter. Oh, I keep doing this. I need to stop. And then, of course, the conifer stuff. We see it all around here, the front area. And then it basically disappears for the actual, like, residential car in Inner Sanctum area up until we get to the ritual place. Then it returns. And then we see a bit of it here in the graveyard section. Again, all of this, very consistent. At this village area, too, which I think makes sense post-Liurnian Wars and stuff like that. Especially if they're doing, like, old ruin excavations. And then, of course, Altus, basically all of Altus, basically all of Gelmir, like wherever you can find the trees you can. And this is consistent with what we see with the DLC. The DLC, there's no point in making a map because it's literally the entire DLC area, like every single spot. There's no, without exception, they're just using those conifers willy-nilly. So it's one of those things where very clearly the general idea would be, let me see if I can, I think I do have a map for this, but let me see. Okay, well this does cover the general idea, but of what I'm talking about first off, but it's not the full thing. So let's see, go here. There we go. So we have the basically conifers up here, and because of the northern winds, which we see exhibited by Dominula, notice how we... Oh, we're switching characters. We're switching character. Oh, I don't want to do new character. Oh, nope. I don't want to do continue either. ×5 speed. You're fucking me. This is how you guys know I'm out of practice. Oh, we can try to catch up on my gotcha. This is what it does to me. There we go. All right, so yeah, over here, this will do. Perfect. All right, so we can see here how there is clearly, with the existence of the windmill villages and stuff, paints a clear picture of the winds that are traveling down from the mountaintops area. So you can very easily see how seeds and stuff could be carried over from the mountaintops down to the plateau where they proliferate and spread absolutely everywhere. And then you have, of course, the center of the lands between, so about here, right? So this area here, essentially they would continue spreading and they would head downward over land, following the northern wind all the way to Rao and Shadow Altis, all the way down to Cerulean Coast. So that all makes sense in terms of natural. The rest, though, I think is because of migration of populations, and that is my thesis on this subject. Let's see if I can find. That's for nomads. Overlays, Divine Bridge. Ah, here it is. Of course, it's the first one I'm not looking at. Okay, so here it is, the Karian migration map. There we go. All right. So essentially, we have all these. We have a populate. So basically, we can divide this into several groups. We have A1, A2, and A3. A1. So astrologer pop 1, right? So A1 heads downward, and they end up at Far Missoula, which, by the way, I don't think I included that in my map either, but we also see these things at Far Missoula. Now, this is actually interesting because I didn't realize this until we were working on this for something completely unrelated. But Far Missoula actually has indications of falling through, not only because we, of course, see the conifers at the settlement area of the actual town, giving us the idea of astrologers who actually stopped and settled, which, again, would tie very nicely into the whole meteor thing. Especially if we have some idea that some from Celia might have also come back, trying to, you know, go between back to mountaintops and things like that. But this area, I was determining, I thought was probably the northern section. Like, the idea was when we teleport here, this bridge was once actually connected to the mountaintops to the north. And that, ironically, the actual north currently, what used to be the southern part, which is why we have the southern Stormhawks and stuff appearing in here. So the idea is, like, the Stormhawks are flying from Storm Hill, and the closest area would be down south. And likewise, up north would be closest here. So it's rather fitting that the conifers only show up here at this bridge on the quote-unquote north side and not on here, the quote-unquote south side, but they do appear in the settlement and stuff because that is also part of the migration, the main migration concentration, where they're going to be staying, visiting, maybe you know, stopping by, maybe interested in investigating a little bit into beastmen and lightning and all that stuff, and then maybe, you know, travel by, right? Like, very clear, you can see where it all kind of you know, ties together into this kind of, like, you know, traffic route of this larger, what's the word, migratory ecosystem, let's call it. So we take that with A1, and then A1 populations are heading there. A1 gets to the Celia area. They make contact with Nokron Underground, and we see some of the your heat map of conifers includes Gelmir too, right? Yeah. My heat map. Let's go down here. I love this. I love this with the nomads. Here we go. So, here we go. 3. Yeah. Gelmir is included. This one, I decided to exclude this and this just for whatever's sake, because it was just becoming all red. But yeah, it's basically the idea. It's all red here. Because it's basically the same idea. They basically appear anywhere on Gelmir the same way they appear on Altus. Anyway. There we go. There we go. Karia migration map. Wait, is this? Yeah, yeah, this is actually exactly, like, this is the idea of, like, trying to roughly try to reconstruct what Farm Azul might have been like. Obviously, it's not going to work. Obviously, the areas weren't designed for that, so it would purely be conceptual. But this could give us a rough idea of how the area might have once been construed here, with this bridge where we start with the conifers being the northern part. You have the town and village stuff around here, but then there's nothing really over here, whatever, and then it goes into normal. Did I ever send you a list of Gelmir items? I want to say you did, Nardi, but I will admit it's so hard for me to keep track of what lists you have or have not sent me, so I'm gonna have to, like, you know, go through our messages or go through the Discord stuff. Honestly, Nardi, what we need to do is have all of your stuff needs to get posted and pinned. Like, what we should do is we take all what we already pinned, we remove the pins, and we just have you make a new post where you have all your current stuff as you have. We'll pin it, and then you can go back to the pinned comment and edit it to add anything else you've included, so that way it becomes this, like, you know, little, what's the word? Repository of all the stuff you've done, so that way everyone, including yourself, can reference it easy, and we can always be like, okay, which one has been made publicly available or shared or whatever, right? I think that might be the smart thing to do. Anyway, so we see Deselia, Nokron, spread acrossward to Kaled, up to Summonwater Village. So that's basically A1. A2 does something similar. They head down, they head through Altus and stuff. They decide to settle there in Laskar, where they'll establish stuff like the Academy and things to that. So A2 to Raya Lucaria. Eventually, we also see A2 head to Lux. So they seem to head back up because they want to then trace the water, because it seems like what happened was they discovered how the crystal formations stuff were seemingly most concentrated here, and this seems to have been a result of the river. And the reason it's the result of the river is because the river water flow seems to have trace amount of glintstone that is being brought over. Now, Altus has tons of glintstone and stuff, but obviously mainly Gelmir here is what's relevant from the seething river and stuff like that. So that's interesting in and of itself. I don't know if that has anything to do with the red glintstone to be found on Gelmir, or if it's something else entirely. Either way, this seems to have taken enough interest that sorcerers went up and established Lux in order to monitor the area, and then made friends with the demi-humans and stuff. And we have to keep in mind that the demi-human queens and stuff are using arts and things that are post-academy, uses the academy sigil, and specifically uses arts and things that are definitely things like post establishment of, like, the twin sage and stuff, and the crystal cadre and everything. So very important that we keep that in mind. Same thing down here, some of A2 going down to demi-human forest ruins, and like we talked about, some of the spread and stuff, making contact with the alien village and things like that. And then finally we have A3 to Moonlight Altar, and then Moonlight Altar makes contact with the Noxtella and stuff, and then the rest is history. That's how they start taking over this entire area, period. But that kind of gives us a very rough sense of what the history is. That, or create a file folder and pin that. Yeah, either way, you could do like a Google Drive or something, right? Like some type of Google Drive folder that you make public, and then you just like you make a post that links that, and then we'll pin that, and everything else will be there. And then, like, you know, we'll let people be able to check the folder and stuff, so we can all be like, okay, what has Nardi got here or whatever. Either way, we'll have to figure that. We'll figure it out. But yeah, this pretty much covers the general idea that it looks like the history for it is. So you have populations that are coming down to Celia, populations that are coming down to Laskar, then eventually you have a population coming from Karia, driven by the moon stuff, and then eventually Karia takes over and more or less kind of becomes hegemon of not just obviously here, but we also see the major influence over here. So whew, overall, I think that kind of gives us a sense of the depth of the history for the astrologers without like going into too much depth, right? Like it's something where it's like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. But it's not like, say, like some of the stuff with America and the demigods, where we're getting really bogged down into characters and machinations and plots and conspiracies and different character motivations and all that stuff. Like, it's very broad and easy to follow, I think. Holy shit, Loki, I found it. It's included in the doc that I did for the entire Altus Plateau. Good to know. Good to know that that's where we have it. Yeah, like I said, it's so hard to keep track. Hey, Pietro. Good to see you in the chat. Good evening. All right. So anyway, point is, the conifers, I think it's very clear that the conifers are very much deliberate. They're very much trying to signal, not only, of course, the general geography, but also history to the land. I think, therefore, the conifers themselves are natural, but they're spread outside of strictly the mountaintops, Altus Plateau, and the DLC areas is unnatural. Same thing with the... Actually, no, I can't say that with these trees. I think outside of the DLC, where they're at the Cathedral of Manus Meter, I think these trees are mostly naturally spread. I think it's just a result that the lake is spreading. Now, I guess whether you consider the lake and the way that it has spread as natural, I guess that's a separate question. But oh yeah, this is a really good example. There we go. There we go. All right. Yeah, I figured that was. I didn't hear the sound. I was like, oh no, oh no. Also, I need to stop leaving this thing on top chat because I know that sometimes it'll eat some of your messages and I don't get to see everything you guys post, which is so dumb. Like, I can understand if it was something like, you know, there was like a super chat or something like that, but like, I don't think I even have that enabled for you guys. Not sure if I want to have it enabled. All right, so I really want to know what species the Erd trees are. Haley tree looks like a fucked up oak or something. I mean, like I said, I don't know my trees well enough, but this looks like such a, like, this is like your generic tree, right? I don't think cypress would be the word. But I feel like there has to be like a basic bitch tree that everyone knows. It has some sort of name for it. Because it feels like whatever that is, that's what their trees are supposed to be. Maybe it's supposed to be oak. But like it just looks basic, right? Like whatever you think of a tree, you think of this. Right? All right. So with that all that in mind, the inclusion of the smaller trees around Stormvale and the Limgrave Arena, that gets my brain wondering, right? It gets my brain thinking. I think it goes as far as over here too. We can see a bunch of them. I think it stops once you get past the graveyard here. So basically, if I want to extend the map to include the mini trees, we could probably include them here. There's also a few cases where we could extend it over here because, as I recall, the small trees actually start here too. So the devs definitely were self-conscious about using the small trees to indicate younger versions, because the idea would be that the forest has obviously extended here. This is where the full-grown ones are. But you can see the occasional small tree and stuff in the other side of this forest up to here, right? So very clearly, they had the idea that, oh, the forest is spreading southward through here. Right? I can't remember if we found more of these smaller trees. Oh, yeah, we did. Okay, yeah, they do exist. So, yeah. So, that, again, I find that very interesting. The idea that the smaller trees can extend farther out than even what we see with some of the bigger trees. Oak is what I imagine as basic tree. Yeah, that's what I would think, is that, like, it has to be, like, either an oak or, like, whatever the name is for, like, that type of basic shape of tree, right? That has to be it. Because I can't think of anything else the devs were considering to make a tree look like that if they're trying to make it that generic. Yeah, nothing up here. Oh, actually, here's a good question. Do we have the small trees around the Karian Study Hall at all? I'm not seeing it. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Yeah, not seeing it. Reddit is suggesting the Erd trees are Japanese elm, given the golden leaves and overall shape. Ah, I don't think that's the case. It's very clearly a Western style tree, not an Asian tree, right? I think that's a bit of a reach. I think trying to connect it because of like the yellow, right? Definitely not ginkgo, that's for sure. You know, the smaller trees here. They're all our adults. Okay, good to know. So yeah, I'm thinking the idea may be... I think what we need to investigate now is the idea that it's possible that the small trees are being used here to tell us that these are the most recent trees and they're the ones with the least history, which can only make sense if they're being used during the Fringe Folk Rebellion, because obviously Radigan closes down the arenas sometime during his reign. We don't know how quickly he does this during his reign, if it's something like as soon as he's in power he starts this, or if it's a process over time when, like, you know, after, you know, he develops a fundamentalism, spreads among the populace or whatever, right? This could be a phase thing. Either way, sometime during his reign, they have to shut them down. Brother, the tree isn't racist, Lamau. No, what I'm trying to say is that the I don't think the yellow leaves is the reason is a good reasoning for it, because it's very clear that the yellow and the gold has to do more so with the lore and specific circumstances for Elden Ring than I think them trying to draw upon any image of a particular tree with yellow leaves. I think the idea is more so focusing on just the concept of gold and trying to embody that in the image of like your most generic tree that you can think of. Anyway, point is, yeah, nothing there. Pretty sure we don't even get the young trees over here. You know, it's all normal. Oh. Yeah, this area is clear. But yeah, it's not too unusual because this doesn't seem to even be a proper sorcerer village per se, and it's at the very end of the Celia stuff, so it doesn't seem to be the area that has the most traffic, especially because if we consider that much of the traffic will be going through here, right? So I don't think there's a lot of people staying at some water before they set off. At least, oh, at least none that aren't already getting their rest and recovery from the stables and stuff here, right? Like, this is clearly the area where a lot of transit and travel, probably mostly for cargo and stuff, because they use these platforms to help lower down all the different supplies and stuff, considering how this village is so removed from the highway. Oh, wait, is that? Yeah, some stone blocks here. Night Scout would say the yellow is actually because they're all dying at the same time, if I remember some of his comments when he first appeared in streams. Yeah, Night Scout's idea there is absurd. I'm not entertaining that. I'm not entertaining that for a second. It's silly. Yeah, the yellowing of the trees is clearly more related to the Erd tree and stuff like that, especially when we see in contrast to the browning we're seeing with the Realm of Shadow and stuff. And obviously everything else we see with other trees and different colorations and things that seem to be influencing that type of environment. So yeah, the idea that, oh yeah, they all happen to be dying, except for those trees that are actually dead and dying. Like those that they're different. They're like, I guess they're dying. That or does it look like that camera pans the Erd tree in flames? Never mind, the tree canonically is. I guess you're right. Listen, Golden Order is all encompassing. It just doesn't mean that everyone encompassed in it is equal. Not everyone is encompassed equally. All right. Anyway, so oh yeah, so I still am curious about the Keelam. Pronouncing it that way is a struggle, I must admit. Partly because I'm not entirely sure what the name is trying to reference. Because like if it's supposed to be the Latin for like sky or something related to astrologers, usually that would be rendered as like Kylum, or maybe maybe you can also render it as K. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to double check, see if there's any examples of that in Japanese rendering. But yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of Latin romanization, or sorry, Latin rendering in katakana with ki. That one seems a little off to me. Maybe it's instead supposed to be Greek and I should be looking there instead of Latin. But again, I'm not entirely sure what it would be. Caelid itself makes sense to me. That's supposed to be Welsh. I think the idea would be like burning or afflicted. If I recall correctly, it means something like burning or afflicted field. And for the Caelid wilds, quote unquote, the term for wilds is in fact field. So it's supposed to be the field or fields of Caelid. So yeah, the idea is that the Caelid is the Caelid fields. And the idea they're being, well, clearly, we can definitely say that they are being afflicted. I don't recall if the other connotations literally would be like burning, or if it's something more like, you know, kind of like, you know, it burns because I'm like infested in something with like, you know, and my wound is getting pussy or something. Like I don't know enough Welsh for sure to say anything about that. But the that at least when it comes to Caelid, it's like, okay, I understand where that name is coming from. But then Keelam, I don't know. Is it supposed to be Greek or something, right? So I have no idea if the idea with Keelam is it's supposed to just be another settlement kind of established to help people along as they're going down the highway and leaving, kind of like the Waypoint Town is here. Or if the idea is supposed to be that there's like, you know, like natives or something. Because I am been kind of developing a case to make an argument that I think the country of Rana was located somewhere in Caelid. Obviously, I don't think the devs, because especially when you can't consider what the DLC added, I don't think the devs had a specific spot or anything in mind. But it would be interesting if we can establish Keelam as probably belonging to like a tribe of natives separate from the Celians. Hey, only the Shadow Tree has a personality, and it's very lonely. It's very lonely and very bitter about being lonely. Be like, I don't need any of you. I'm okay all by myself. I'm not bitter. Take this, Pocket Thorns. It's basically what it does when it swipes at you. It's like Pocket Thorns. Pocket Briar. That doesn't have the same ring to it. Anyway, so I feel like the I feel like Keelam is gonna be one of those things that's gonna nag at me until I can understand what the name meaning is, and then I can get an idea if it was just like if there's actually supposed to have been something unique about the culture here, or if it's what. I don't think Keelam is Rana, that's for sure. I feel like if there is a settlement, I think it'd be like Zamor, and it would just be like the Zamor, the Zamor ruins, right? I think they would have just called it the Rana ruins. That said, the Arabic connection between Celia or Saria and Rana is definitely there, so there's definitely still see this cultural link between them. Hey, Dylan. I think these are new faces, at least new faces that have stopped lurking. Welcome on in. Always good to see new blood. Kind of almost looks like what we see at the at Liurnia, but let's be honest, it's very generic, like twigs and stuff like that. I don't know if it might have even been used the same base model, but I'm not sure if the idea is supposed to have any connection to Liurnia Lake. It sounds like it's just a variation of Caelid. So that's the thing. Xavier. It looks like that from an English perspective, but from a Japanese perspective, they're written very differently. Like I said, one is rendered as Keelam, and Caelid is, well, Caelid, right? So it's written very distinctly different. Now again, could that be some sort of quirk in you know, sort of Japanese rendering process of foreign words where they're actually supposed to be like, maybe both of them are Welsh derived words, and it just so happens that for whatever reason Japanese dictionaries or whatever, or the standard spelling happen to pronounce, or, you know, what's the word, phoneticize them differently. Sure, there could be different vocalizations there, but I haven't been able to find anything to back that up, and that's the problem. I've done a lot of look. I've asked some friends around and stuff like that, and we just can't find anything on this. So I feel like, again, it could, again, I don't even know if the localization has the right idea with how they render this or whatever, right? Because obviously they make it look just like Kaled when it really, unless, again, they know exactly what words are being referenced here, and it's possible they could. I might have rendered it differently just to make sure it was clear that's not the exact same spelling and pronunciation. So that's the thing. I have no idea. I have no idea if Kaled and Keelam have anything related in their naming scheme, or if the idea is supposed to be that Keelam is a reference. Like I said, it could be a reference to the Latin Kylus, or Kalis, related to, like, you know, the sky, the stars, you know, the heavens, which again, very on brand if we're considering how Latin and Greek tend to be very heavily associated with the academy and stuff like that, and the idea of the sorcerers studying all this stuff. So that would definitely make sense. But we also have we do have to keep in mind that it could be something even more obscure. Like, for example, Lusat's name is an anagram of Satori. So they basically they basically kind of, like, you know, move some of that around. If I'm being honest, I need to start investigating the small cultures in the lands between. I mean, I've covered most of them, right? Like, I've covered Lux, I've covered Zamor, to some extent, though obviously I don't think I'm going to cover Zamor in super depth until we get to Fire Giants. I have kind of covered Wraithblood Ruins, though again, I can't say with absolute certainty if that's the idea they're going with here. Woodfolk I've definitely covered. I've definitely covered the Frenzy Flame Village and the Ailing Village. Mistwood, of course, I've covered Aokid. I always hate pronouncing that. Yeah, most of the smaller settlements and stuff I think I've covered at this point. At least I've touched on them. I think the big stuff is probably now just the Nox stuff. So, like, obviously Ordina, that's going to be covered in Nox Eternal Cities. Celia will be covered in Nox Eternal Cities, but we'll be building upon it in Astrologers. Obviously, we've already covered the lower quarter here in Lingdell, so overall, I think we're in a good spot as far as, like, Astrologers is concerned. Like, I think all the data has been collected, and it's just a matter of me organizing and collating it into something that is, you know, sensible sounding, considering just how much we have to cover. Like I said, it's very vague, so that's one of the nice upsides, is that we don't have to get bogged down into really specific, detailed, and complicated, you know, character psychology. So that's nice, but it's one of those things where there's still a bit in terms of, like, we have the trees, we have the settlements, we have, of course, the different population migrations, we have of course all the standard environmental storytelling on top of that. So it's a lot to kind of weave together into something sensible and putting it in a way, in order with which it will make sense to everybody. Yeah, okay. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Oh, brother, I need to do the Altus dock. You were just telling me, Nardi, that you had the Altus dock. You even had Gelmir. Actually, wait, I don't recall. Did you ever cover Capital Outskirts? I think that was the side we didn't have done, right? Yeah, I feel like I've covered Capital Outskirts pretty thoroughly, but there might be an item or something I missed that might be relevant, so. Woo. There we go. There we go. Man, times 5 speed, man. There we go. Ah! Woo. Ah! Of course, I screwed myself. No! I screwed myself over! Oh. Oh. I have the notes, not the finished product. Ah, I see. The formatting and stuff. It might be good too if you want to go back to some of your older stuff and like make the formatting, I don't know, like consistent or something like that. In case you feel like, oh, you know, you didn't, you could have, I don't know. You know, I'm the same way where I do later stuff and I'm like, man, I gotta update all this stuff so it's uniform, so it's all like the same quality. Because some of this older stuff is like, it looks nasty now. So I'm glad I did the quote thing on the website, by the way. By the way, I hope you guys like that stuff with the little quote things. I've wanted to do drop-down menus for quotes for the longest time, and now that I've found a way to do it, and I create a little kind of like special block, customized block thing just for it, I'm very happy with the results. I enjoy it immensely. You do have capital outskirts? Yeah? Okay, cool. I am so happy with that quotation thing, though. Like, man. And now I was looking at my Demon Souls stuff, and I was like, damn, my screenshots for Demon Souls really were bare. I was just relying on what other people would be able to hand me and what I could edit together from stuff online. So I do have, inspired by Smotown, I have gotten emulators installed, and I'm going to, hopefully tomorrow I will have, hopefully before the end of the day, have delivered a Blu-ray disc reader, and then we can actually get everything set up so I can actually play Demon Souls, because now I own a copy. So I just got to put the disc in, then install all the settings and things like that, and then we'll probably be streaming Demon Souls, and I'll play it clean, and then in future playthroughs or New Game Plus or whatever, I'll use free cam stuff, because apparently that's part of the package deal with that emulator, which I am not going to complain. I hope it's a really good camera. I love, not gonna lie, they're hella fun to parse through whenever I get tired of slogging through your slop. Thanks, Nardi. Yeah, I'm very happy with that. It's a lot of work to actually update every single goddamn article, because like at this point, guys, I've written like over like 100 and posted for you guys. Like it's like probably closer to 150 if I'm being honest. So it's like it's a lot for to go through and be like, okay, which one do we have double up and stuff like that. I will say it does create an awkward spot where it's like, okay, we have like a really long quote, and I haven't broken up this quote in any way because I need the full context, and so it still can get a little lengthy there. So that still exists. That's still, I wouldn't necessarily call it a problem, but that's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know, if I did put a block there, I could make it shorter. I have to consider whether or not I really want to do that, though, because then that gets into the arbitrary thing. Okay, at what point are we kind of saying that, you know, we need to do this for like basically every quotation, right? I don't know. I have to think about that one through. Like maybe if it's like, okay, this is basically its own like half paragraph block of text, maybe we should use the quotation drop down just to help collapse it. Either way, I'm just glad that my citation stuff now isn't going to be a thing where we have like 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever quotes that are relevant for this and only this paragraph, and then we end up in a situation where I'm not, what's the word? I'm not able to make it look clean going from one paragraph to the next. Now it's like, okay, if you guys want to open it and read the quotations, you can, or not. The choice is yours. Yeah, so these rotted conifers here, stuff like this, is what I believe is also intended to be basically the equivalent to the conifers we see in other areas, and obviously the idea is like they rot. Again, we don't see them appearing uniform or anything like that. There's clearly a pattern to them that's more consistent with what we see with regular conifers. We also, of course, see them in places like the Lake of Rot, but we don't see them in every, like, for example, we don't see them in the Romina stuff in the DLC and other things, even though we do see things like, say, this stuff here consistently between areas. So it's very obvious that the rot, of course, it takes different forms or variations, but it seems clear that these rotted conifers, as I call them, are not part of that. Not part of it per se. They're just obviously most affected, which, hey, makes sense because the regular conifers are most affected by other shit too. You think about joining VC once you end stream? Ooh, I might. I'm gonna first have to check on the dog though, because I took her to the doggy park again today, and let's just say not only was she very happy to go there, but she exhausts herself there, and it's so much nicer in the afternoon now that I'm able to do so. Like, honestly, the fact that she had to go through heat was absolutely just terrible timing. Like, I wanted to at least try to start getting her trained before that, but no, like, as soon as her roundworms were cleared, she goes into heat. It's like, oh my god, this poor puppy. What am I gonna do with you? So I'm glad the she-devil is she's generally actually calm and good in the morning, and then once she gets her you know, her exercise, her mental and physical exercise, trying to socialize with other dogs, she is able to be actually like basically dead tired for the rest of the day. So it's like, oh, I love it. And then yeah, so if she's fine and stuff like that, then yeah, sure, I'll hop on before we head out, because I'm not going to be like spending my last hours awake taking care of her. Okay, so I think that more or less covers all the stuff for the tree thing. I don't think there's anything else I really need to clarify or add. I don't think we see the smaller trees down here to my memory. Yeah, not sure if that has any significance to it, but at the very least, it does give us a sense. Some of them down there, and of course all the way up there. Hey, Brad. Wow, I'm seeing a lot of new faces. I don't recall seeing in this chat before. So maybe it's because we're switching back to ER after a while. But ooh, it's always nice to see new people joining the chat. All right. So like I said, I think more or less, I think the conifer stuff is done. We have it all covered. We have the idea of the migrations here, very clearly illustrated, right? This is one of my earliest stuff too. That's the funny part. Let's move that there. That's for the Estelle stuff. Oh, that's for the America Church thing. Yeah. I'm also proud of this chat. This recent edit I did for very much article I included this in, but very nice there. More of the Estelle stuff. And yeah, okay, here we go. Right, so with all this with the conifers, like I said, I probably want to add a dot here to include the smaller trees here. We could extend the forest here to this as well. That could definitely happen. I think that's it as far as though what we could add here. I think this more or less covers everything we can. And like I said, because of the nature of the burning of the stuff of trees here, we aren't able to get a clear picture of how common conifers were before the lake of Liurnia kind of killed all the trees and replaced them with these like mangrove oak things. Baby animals in general are such little crackheads, bro. Guts was such a little pain as a kid. Well, yeah, the thing with this one is because she's a golden, and I've never raised a golden this young before. I'm just not used to having a golden who's already a hyperactive dog be like twice that. But I won't lie, once I was able to take her back to the doggy park, she's really mellowed out. Like, it's actually amazing. Just like, I really do think the problem was just that she was just pent up, and there's just only so much I can do when she's trapped inside the house and with me. Like, there's only so much I can do, you know? Only so much I can do with a yard. So I tried. But in the end, it's very clear that the best thing I can do was give her some time with dogs again once this stupid heat cycle ended. Thank God. All right. Now, I think that covers everything I want today. Yeah, I said the Demon Soul stuff, right? So yeah, Demon Souls I think might become the comfort thing because I don't really need Elden Ring screens right now, and there's nothing really I want to keep getting. So right, so as much as I love being able to run around and talk to you, chat about you guys in Elden Ring, I think Demon Souls might be the next thing. I'm also actually I should mention this. I'm also working on doing a live stream version of the recording I did a while back, and I haven't edited it yet, and I think I want to update that recording anyway. So as a practice run, I want to kind of get back into the habit of doing Loki looks for the Hawkshaw's timeline video specifically, right? So I want to do a what's the word? A commentary on that and the whole notion of Dark Souls' timeline, right? You know, so I think I want to do that. I don't know if it's gonna be next week, but at least sometime there. I think I want to kind of go on and do it live. That's gonna be a bit weird because I think for you guys, I'm going to basically kind of ignore chat and focus on doing the video, and then I'll do like questions or something maybe afterward when that's done. But I think I want to focus on just doing kind of like, you know, kind of like the reaction to the actual video. And once that's done, maybe we'll I don't think I'm gonna use that for the record. I think I'd still want to do the recording myself as a separate thing, but I think that'd be good practice run at least. At the very least, it'll give something for you guys if we want to do like clips and shorts and things like that, where I can be like, okay, I can clip this and you know, to help talk about it or what have you. Because I'm curious about editing live streams for shorts and things like that. I think this is why people, content creators hire editors, though, because it's so much easier to have someone else be like, hey, can you keep track of the crazy shit that I say on stream and like clip it into you know, like digestible bites that people can actually follow on any given question or topic. It would be so much easier. Yeah, we have our rat people down here. Yeah, and there's just some of them over here. Actually, do I don't have yeah, I don't have the underground. Okay, yeah. I don't think I have, maybe I'm crazy. I don't think I have underground tree map. Yeah, no, I only have a Stell route. I don't have anything for the underground maps. Okay. All right, we're gonna close that. There we go. Hey, Night Scout, good to see you in the chat. And now, yeah, we can see similar thing to what I was talking about earlier. We can see some of the driftwood and stuff here. So even this river is not completely flowing normally. But we can see again, since it's relatively recent as well, with how many trees here at this waterfall area are still alive and well here. I think it's the same down here, if I recall. There we go. There we are. Yeah, over here. Yeah, okay. Okay. So yeah, you have some still living trees and bushes and things here. Yep, okay, cool. Yeah, so kind of crazy, but a lot of the river stuff we see is actually relatively recent, it seems to be, in the timeline of things. Which makes sense because obviously this stuff is relatively recent. I also thought more about the fact that we find the rotted Erdleaf flowers here. Like I said, I still think it's weird because they clearly, like, they have this effect of falling leaves, and they show the leaves here, but we don't get any Erdleaf flowers in this location. But then you go down to here, Ainsel Riverbane, and they're still trying to give you the sense of continuity between the areas by still having the leaves falling here, right? So it falls the entire way. Right? And stays that way up until... Yep, up until here. Right, and then it disappears. So this is this little choke point here is the dividing line where they decide, okay, we're cutting this thing off. You can't see it anymore. So they just turn it invisible. So I do think maybe the idea really is that they just wanted to highlight the idea that Lake of Rot is where a lot of those leaves and things end up flowing downward and stuff like that, and end up becoming it. Again, I think they could have done it better. I would have, if I was on the FromSoft team, I would have had at least some of the regular Erdleaf flowers up here, and as well as having the rotted ones down here. That way you can really get the sense that, oh, okay, these leaves here are falling and forming Erdleaf. Uh-oh. Doggo wants to see me. 1 second. The monster woke and she said, I want my other bed. And then we have, there we go. Again, much like we see in Nameless Eternal City, more sense of more recent stuff here with the trees and things leading all the way down. Though we do get some driftwood if we follow, like there's, if I recall correctly, we have like driftwood in like, I think obviously this area where the point is, I think either here or down here, one of these areas has it as well. I think it's over here. And then, of course, in the actual river here is also more driftwood. So we're starting to see, again, similar signs of trees are starting to die, but we're still in the trees are mostly doing okay for now. The flooding hasn't been that long. There we go. There we are. Then we move this way. Yeah. And then we can see it there as our guys walk through. No! Stop destroying them, you stupid piece of shit! Ugh. People these days, they have no respect for excavation sites. All they want to do is bomb each other or ride their steeds right through our digging. We gotta try to preserve everything. Okay, I think I've refreshed my memory on what I wanted to refresh. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. Yeah, like I said, Demon Souls possibly starting tomorrow. We'll see. Hopefully I'm able to get everything up and running. It looks like it's pretty straightforward. I just need the Blu-ray disc reader. I don't have that. I only have a regular disc reader. So now that I can do this and potentially emulate PS3 games, it's gonna be fun to actually play the OG Demon Souls. And then we go all the way. Yeah, okay, then we go all the way down there. Yeah, Estelle, and then I don't remember there being any. Yeah, there's no driftwood in the rot. The rot rots away all the driftwood. Okay, yeah, so I think that covers everything I wanted, chat. So we'll probably be ending things here. Sorry again to hear, Xavier, that you've been sick lately. Hope you're getting better. Overall, I'm hoping that if everything works, we can then like kind of have a nice relaxing, you know, do something different playing Demon Souls for a while. I can work on astrologers in the meantime. I should also post what I've done for Rykard because I've actually made some decent progress on that too. But yeah, I want to have probably astrologers and stuff get done. I don't think it's going to be done by the end of this month. I don't think I can do it in the next week or so. It's one of those things where I am trying to figure out how to string things together. But until then, I think we'll be able to kind of like, you know, be able to casually play some other stuff. And like I said, if I can get that low-key looks thing either sometime this next week or the week after, I think that'd be a nice change of pace and stuff like that. And I also want to review a few other YouTube videos as well. I kind of want to check Fire a Link Conspiracy. I feel like you guys have sent me enough stuff where it's like, okay, I can just like take my pickings of which videos I want to dissect there, because I am curious what I'm going to be reacting to on that case. But you know, that's for future Loki to figure out. So thank you so much, guys. Talk to you all later. Johnny.